Rockets and Knicks were in Game 5 when O.J. started that fateful drive. His four-way hazard lights were blinking, and no one knew what the juice was thinking.
I've been to Reno, Chicago, Fargo, Minnesota, Buffalo, Toronto, Winslow, Sarasota, Wichita, Tulsa, Ottawa, Oklahoma, Tampa, Panama, Mattawa, La Paloma, Bangor, Baltimore, Salvador, Amarillo, Chocopilla, Barranquilla, and Padilla. I'm a killer. I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. Across the desert, bare, man. I breathe the mountain air, man. I've traveled, I've had my share, man. I've been everywhere.
This is Oversight Live, your advocate for good governance. We're putting the site back in. Oversight. Here's the watcher on the wall, your host, Ben Carpenter.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Oversight Live. I am Ben Carpenter, your host. You might ask, what is Oversight Live? Never seen this before. Well, in Alaska, our capital and legislature is only accessible by plane and ferry, and it's prohibitively expensive for both time and money for most Alaskans to visit on a regular basis. Providing oversight of our elected representatives in our government is a greater challenge for Alaskans than for most Americans. Oversight Live is your road to Juneau until a real one can be built. A lack of a road is a major inconvenience, but with today's technology, it's no longer a valid excuse for not knowing what's going on. So we're going to bring you convenient and relevant content so that you can be informed and educated with the actual truth, meaning we're going to show you in real time, and you can go find it yourself and double check me if you don't think I'm right here. Anyway, so we're going to show you real stuff, and you don't have to travel Juneau to find it. You don't have to filter out the liberal media bias either. You will have my bias, and I'm unabashedly a limited government, fiscal, and social conservative, but I'm upfront with it. You have the opportunity to engage with me and with other Alaskans to seek answers to your questions or just chat in real time. If you got questions, comments, put them in your put them in the social media app there, and I'll get them. I'll try to address them online here. If you're watching the recording and you've got questions, then email producer@oversightlive.com, and I'll do my best to answer the questions. If it's a really good question, don't be surprised if I use it on air here. And if you've got the question, then there's likely other people have got it. So let's address the questions and give edify everyone with the good question. So we're gonna attempt to have fun here. No sense paying attention to our government and not having fun. Sometimes it can be dry, but hey, you know what? Life is a bummer sometimes. We got to do the hard things because they need to be done. So let's get started. Tonight, I'm going to move away from Juneau slightly. Quite a ways. I have had folks tell me that, hey, look, Ben, when I'm not sure what's going on, I go check your social media page, or I call you and ask you. I'm looking for some advice, and you seem to have a good pulse on things, so I'm looking for answers. Okay, so I have not really done anything with Oversight Live in regards to what's going on with Iran and the military campaign that's going on, but I have had lots of people asking questions, and more than a few have been kind of confused. I see the same social media feed that you probably do, right? And the news is all over the place. I mean, how do you know what's actually true and what's actually happening? It's so sensationalized. So much of what we see on social media, you can't even trust it. Like I see people posting stuff and I'm like, that is from a video game. That is not real. Look, that smoke disappears. It like is there for 2 seconds and then it disappears. Real smoke doesn't do that. Like we've really got to turn social media off and not expect to see, not expect to find our news there unless you're linking to a reputable source. But I don't see on my news feed, I see the same sources popping up all the time and they're questionable. So what I'd like to do today is take you to a couple sources for information where you can go and read, sometimes watch information that's being provided, and you can assume that it's trustworthy. And one of the reasons you can assume it's trustworthy is because you know the source. You can identify the source. First, I'm going to show you where CENTCOM website is and where they store their data and their information that they're going to present. And of course, I mean, they're the government, so you can have whatever amount of confidence you want in that. Obviously, the government's going to try to put things in light that shows a positive spin on what they're doing. But, there are things that happen that aren't in a positive light, and they'll acknowledge them, or they should acknowledge them. If they don't acknowledge them and you find out that they haven't, then obviously that's a situation that we need to address as a people, right? Demand that they address the issues that they're not. So it is worthwhile to keep tabs on what the official record or the official source, military source, is saying in order to hold them accountable. So we'll jump there, and we'll jump to a couple other sites here that I think have done the analysis and in a timely manner for which you would benefit from reading it. And so we'll just kind of step through it a little bit here. Without further ado, let me share my screen here, and you'll be able to see what I'm seeing. Let's first go to this. I'm probably not sharing anything here that you haven't ever seen before, if you're paying attention. So the portion of our military that's responsible for the area of the globe where Iran exists is U.S. Central Command. They were in charge of Iraq. They were in charge of Afghanistan. So they're and actually I can show you if you're curious what these are all the coalition nations that are providing or participating with CENTCOM. But I was looking for the actual area where I know there's a link here. I just forgot where it was. What their actual AOR is. What the area of responsibility. There you go. So this is the map of CENTCOM's AOR, area of responsibility. Stretches all the way from Egypt to Kazakhstan, up in the, right next to Russia. Kazakhstan, I pronounced that wrong, Kazakhstan. Okay, so what I wanted to show you here, back up here, when you go to operations and exercises, you can click on Epic Fury and it'll take you to this web page. And then there's going to be information, video, form, that you can watch. And this is stuff that's produced by U.S. Central Command or their whoever they contract to or whatever. There's also updates that are updated over here on the right-hand side. So this is a way to get official news from your warfighters that are conducting the operation. Don't expect to have, up to the minute information coming from the warfighters. That's not something that they're going to do. They're going to bring you information when they deem it to be pertinent. And it's not going to be like social media where you can expect that you saw something on social media and you go to U.S. Central Command and they've already, updated you with it. They're not going to move that quickly. But if you want to confirm whether something is true or not, it takes time to develop the situation, and it takes time to get the truth out in an official capacity through all of the levels of approval and all that. But they're going to put that information out in some form or fashion. Okay. So that's one thing I would caution us all on, is this demand for instant knowledge through social media is part of the problem. We need to take a step back and say, look, providing information takes time, and expecting it to be instantaneous with social media is part of our part in that problem. All right. So I wonder if I can just click right here. Nope, I got to share it. Okay. Here's a different screen that I want to share, or a different site. Let me share something else here. Okay. Here is the Defense Visual Information Distribution Service. And this is where you're going to find a collection of videos and images that are going to be related to a whole host of things. But pertinent is going to be what's going on with Iran and the conflict in Iran. And so you can see that there's a whole bunch of videos that have been posted here. The CENTCOM commander gives an operational update. That's as of yesterday, right? You don't get an update every day necessarily. If there was pertinent information that he felt he needed to get out, then maybe it would be every day, but it has not been. You can click on more videos, and then there's a listing here that you can search and find whatever videos that you want to watch. There's lots of, some of this is, just pro-military, pro-CENTCOM stuff, but as opposed to news articles, they're just promoting what's happening with our men and women in uniform. But some of it has newsworthy features. Okay, so that's what you would see from your government. Okay. There we go. I'll pay attention to that. You need to have a big screen to be able to see it. Looking at the chats here to keep up with you guys. Challenging to hear that my former base in the Middle East got attacked. Yeah. Interesting. So I spent time in the Air Force, and I spent time in the Army. And I was deployed to Turkey and Kuwait with the Air Force, and then Iraq and Afghanistan with the Army. And the threat was somewhat different for both deployments, or both types of deployments. So in the Air Force, I was deployed to air bases because I was a maintainer on F-16s. And the threat was always that we would have missiles and incoming, and that potentially those missiles could be, biological or chemical. So we had to go through training to have, response and put on our gas masks and get into our MOP suits and all of that, right? And in Iraq, we didn't have that as much because the threat wasn't there necessarily for chemical and biological. But the bases, the airfields, potentially that could be. And I would imagine that the troops have all gone through that. Yeah, Tawny, you were in Bahrain. One of the missiles that Iran launched landed in a tactical operations center, or a TOC, or a command post in Kuwait, and the several of the soldiers there, I believe the number 6, all reservists, were killed because of that missile strike. Which, when you're a reservist and you go to Kuwait, you're kind of far from the concept of combat, right? Because you're in Kuwait. The battle is not in Kuwait. But that's not the case when you have missiles flying. Missiles can drop behind the front lines. And in this conflict, the front lines, there isn't really a front line. I guess the border of Iran would be your front line, but it's not really a front line. Anyway, I don't know where I was going with that, other than to say that we've lost some soldiers because of the missiles. We've lost some quite a bit of equipment as well. One of our radar sites there I believe it's in Bahrain, was taken out, and that's like $1 billion radar early warning system. So that's a major strike to us. 3 F-15s have been taken out. This is all news that's open source and everybody's probably aware of now. Those F-15s were actually shot down by some friendly fire, and I have not heard definitively whether they were shot down by an aircraft, like a friendly aircraft, or whether it was a surface-to-air missile that shot them down. But all 3 of the planes got shot down over Kuwait, and the pilots and the EWOs got out. So anyway, let me jump to another site here that you may or may not be aware of, and I'll just kind of step you through some of the information here. Let's go here. Okay, I'm not going to get into the politics of any one of these organizations. I'm just going to highlight that they've got some good analysis, and that you can at least trust it in as much as you know where it's coming from. Versus on social media, who knows where it's coming from, right? You don't know whether even whether the photographs or the video is AI created or video game created, or as we'll see, there's counter information operations that are going on from Iran and their proxies and their supporters that would be there just to disrupt us and just to confuse us, right? So this is a think tank, so to speak. Here you can check out who the editorial board is and do your own research. At a bare minimum, the bios and doing research on the history of the people who are running this particular organization should give you some confidence that they're using reputable data and keeping up on the truth. So anyway, I found this particular article. It is written on the 2nd, or written from the 2nd, which is, old news by now. But I did want to kind of touch on this because I think some of this is key to understanding the larger picture and what's actually happening here. What we see on social media and in the news are the things that make good sound bites. So you see missiles and you see explosions and claims that people died and all that kind of stuff, right? And you don't necessarily see the whole picture of what's happening. So this article here kind of paints what the entire military, the entire response is going to be dealing with. So, and who's the author of this? It's Frederick Lemieux, and I have no idea whether whether I'm pronouncing that right. Frederick, I don't know, Lemieux. All right, so his work here, I think we need to just talk about for a little bit. Iran's response to Epic Fury reflects a pre-planned multi-domain retaliation framework designed to impose costs on us while preserving their regime survivability and avoiding escalation that could result in our military just overwhelming their military and obliterating it. Okay, so that's what the point of his article is. Rather than pursuing a decisive counterstrike, Tehran is implementing layered responses that combine kinetic attacks, cyber disruption, proxy activation, geopolitical alignment with Russia and China. So this is the point. This is why I thought this would be a valuable article. Is we just see the military stuff that's happening, the rockets and the missiles that are being launched, but we don't necessarily see what's happening behind the scenes or in other areas, other domains where the battle is also raging. Cyber disruption, and we have heard some in the news about proxies or terrorist type activities that could get launched away from Iran and in cities around the world. Right, that's what they're talking about. That's what this article is. So, Iran's immediate response is centered on missile and drone strikes against U.S. bases in the Middle East. Confirmed strikes and designated targets include naval support activity in Bahrain, Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, Al Dhafra Air Base in the UAE, Ali Salim in Kuwait, Mufaq al-Saltiri Air Base in Jordan. Satellite imagery and open source reporting confirms impacts at Bahrain, Ali Salim, and Al Udeid. So a lot of this is days old information, right? News sources and press releases have covered a lot of this. Reports of attacks in Saudi Arabia near Erbil in Iraq indicate a targeting philosophy that treats the U.S. basing network as a unified operational system rather than discrete launch sites. All right. Iranian statements suggest that between 14 and 27 installations were attacked or they were designated targets. So that's what Iran is thinking that they're attacking. Whether that higher figure reflects actual strikes or just strategic signaling, like they said, I remember Iran saying, hey, we're in control of the Strait of Hormuz, which is complete nonsense because they don't have a navy anymore. Let's see. But the point here is their operational message is that the entire U.S. regional posture, everywhere we are over there, is vulnerable. They can reach us with their missiles, and that's technically accurate. Most all of our bases are within range of the missiles, and if our counter missiles, our air defense does not knock them out of the sky, then potentially if they get a hit, then we are vulnerable. So this approach, Iran's approach, serves strategic objectives, right? It demonstrates that Iran retains a strike capability despite leadership removal and infrastructure damage. It disperses U.S. defensive resources across multiple host states, so we're spread out, and it makes it harder for us to defend. Reinforces deterrence by signaling that continued strikes will produce region-wide consequences rather than local retaliation. That's an interesting concept because much of the Arab countries where we have our bases are now more on our side than they are on Iran's. So the missiles coming in and doing damage within those civilian locations is only steel the resolve of the Arabs to get this over quickly and eliminate Iran's capability to wage war. Okay, so here's getting to the things that you may not see. Iran's cyber capabilities provide an asymmetric, meaning not a battle lines drawn. So it's asymmetric instrument capable of imposing disruption while remaining below the threshold of conventional warfare. So it's not something that you can directly counter with a counter missile, an air defense, or drop a bomb on or something like that. It's hard to fight. It's digital. It's behind the scenes, and anyway, it's hard to fight. The IRGC, that's the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, Cyber Electronic Command, and the Ministry of Intelligence and Security oversee a network of advanced persistent threat actors positioned to disrupt espionage, conduct espionage, and influence operations. Okay, so this is part of the response of the attack on Iran. So we have forces out there that are having to deal with this as well, but you don't hear that in the news really. Okay, cyber operations are expected to be paired with coordinated disinformation campaigns designed to amplify confusion, erode public trust, and increase domestic political pressure against sustained military operations. In light of that statement, what do you think about the Democrats and some Republicans in Congress putting bill forward to tell Trump that he needs to cease activities over there immediately and pull all our troops out and bring them home? There are strategic military objectives that are being achieved, and to pull out now and just come home, which is what they've requested through this bill, would hurt us in the long run. But this is what we can expect. And if you compare that statement to what you're seeing on social media, maybe that makes sense. I look at the poster, the owner of the post, and I look at it and I say, is this a reputable source? Do I know anything about this? Does it look like it's new, or Like, if it's not clear who it is that's posting it, looks like clickbait, or it looks like I don't know. It's disinformation. It's intentional. Somebody is presenting information out there that looks plausible, and the purpose that they have, this is part of warfare. The purpose is to confuse, erode public trust, and create this domestic political pressure to stop doing what we're doing. That's part of warfare. We don't think of it that way, but that's what it is. Iran's proxy and affiliated networks provide deniable escalation options capable of extending the conflict geographically. Okay, so we're talking about Hezbollah and Hamas a little bit. Hamas has kind of been degraded somewhat. And I'm thinking about Israel's war in the Gaza, and that's how Hamas has usually been in the Gaza. Hezbollah has been north of Iran. So Hezbollah-linked infrastructure and ideologically aligned cells represent a long-standing capability cultivated through the Iranian-Quds Force relationship. So you've heard in the news that that Israel has been launching attacks into Lebanon north of Israel, and that's because this Hezbollah connection with Iran is presenting military targets to Israel. So that's going to continue. Iran's retaliatory posture is strengthened by its trilateral strategic pact with China and Russia, and that was signed in January 2026. Although the agreement does not constitute a mutual defense treaty, it provides diplomatic cover, intelligence cooperation, economic resilience, and technical support. This is an interesting analysis because China has provided satellite imagery and early warning, as well as air defense, and neither Russian nor Chinese air defense were effective, right? So to what extent China and Russia can actually help Iran remains to be seen. And maybe the intelligence piece of it is tying into the targeting of their missiles, and that is helping them be more effective with us. It isn't just Iran intelligence that would giving them, targeting data. Perhaps Russia and China are able to do that with their own satellite capabilities and other intelligence assets on the ground. Iran's potential acquisition of China's supersonic anti-ship missiles would significantly increase the risk to U.S. naval assets in the Persian Gulf. And we have not, to the best of my knowledge, we have not seen that yet. There was a report that I saw that a Chinese airlift, basically a cargo aircraft, had made it into Iran. And you would assume that they've got something on that plane that they're handing off to Iranians, but I haven't heard anything about what it was or if it was true. Okay. I guess in this sense, not that the UN Security Council is really going to matter in this action. Trump is going to ignore them, and largely Europe is not friendly to what's happening. So the UN Security Council is pretty much not effective here. But this partnership that China and Russia have would reduce the likelihood that there would be a consensus within the Security Council against Iran because of veto authority with those entities. Anyway, Iran's retaliation strategy is shaped by a central tension, demonstrating defiance while avoiding actions that could trigger its own military destruction. So it knows that it's fighting a bigger force and a bigger strength. So it has to prove that it can resist, but it also there's a fine line there. Several escalation thresholds remain critical. Attacks on Gulf oil infrastructure. So if you were to damage or destroy Saudi Arabia's oil capabilities, the can of whoop ass would open up then, right? Because that's now you've made them mad, that type of thing. I think this is key. Maybe Iran has said, you know what, we're really not going to have proxy attacks on U.S. soil. Imagine if Hezbollah detonated a bomb in a mall in a U.S. city. Okay, it may be possible, but what would the U.S. response be? It might be something that Iran says, you know what, we really don't want that response. We're not going to. Anyway, could be that there's not anybody in Iran leadership-wise that can activate these networks as well. I don't know. With all of the leadership taken out very early on by U.S. and Israel, it is plausible, at least in my mind, that maybe you don't have as much coordination amongst your proxy as you thought you did. So what this analysis says is that Iran's most effective strategy may lie in just doing the cyber and proxy operations. And I think the longer this goes on, that's their only option, because we're going to degrade their ability to launch rockets. So anyway, I thought that was an interesting article, pretty simple, easy to read. It's not a whole lot of, and this website is not just Iran based. It is a Homeland Security focused. So, okay, let's go to another analysis here. Which one is it here? Bear with me just a second here. Okay, here we go. Okay, so this is Long War Journal. Jump in here and show you about who this is. So this Long War Journal is a project of the Foundation for Defense Democracies. It's headed by President Cliff May and CEO Mark Dubowitz. I don't know anything about them. I haven't done any research here, but this is an interesting article that I thought I'd bring your attention to. We've heard in the news, if you're listening, that the numbers of ballistic missiles that Iran has launched has been declining since the beginning of the war. And so here's an interesting take on, kind of this analysis here. So, since the United States and Israel initiated this large-scale combat operations, Tehran has lashed out its neighbors with hundreds of missiles and drones, and that number is somewhere around 500 or more as of now. Oh, and I need to say that the date of this article is yesterday. I am sorry. Today is the 4th. This is earlier today. Despite the scale of the initial attacks and the damage done to Americans, Israelis, and Arabs, the daily rate of Iranian ballistic missiles attacks is decreasing over time. This decline is likely due to a combination of factors, including the effectiveness of the ongoing U.S.-Israeli strike campaign against ballistic missile stockpiles, launchers, and facilities. The risk to Iranian operators of being detected and destroyed by American and Israeli aircraft, a potential rationing effort by the regime to preserve missiles for sustained conflict, and to retain a credible deterrent at the war's conclusion. So Iran also has fought previously. They had a 12-day war with Israel that they probably expended some of their stockpile, or they did expend some of their stockpile that they weren't able to build up yet. So this is an interesting concept, because the longer this goes and the fewer distractions our Air Force has, and I say distractions, fewer targets that they have to go after. Again, our Air Force had command and control nodes, buildings, and air defense sites, not just missile launchers, missile stockpiles. They had a whole range and a lot of different targets that they had to go after and prioritize, right? So once once you start degrading all of those targets and the targets become less, then the Air Force can focus on these mobile launchers. And they're literally a big truck that they can move around, a missile strapped to the back of it, and they park somewhere, put the missile up in the air, and then the missile gets launched, right? So what's likely happening is, what the Iranians are probably finding out is that if they move their missile trucks around, we're able to see them. It's easier to find them if they're driving down the road because it's more clear. It's hot. There's going to be a heat signature with that engine moving, right? And then the pilots that are in the sky using their cameras are going to be looking for the shape of that missile truck moving down the road. Whereas if you've got it parked somewhere, you could probably camouflage it or hide it, and it would be safe from overhead cameras. Well, what happens is that if once you launch these missiles, it creates a giant heat signature. So what's likely happening is a Tomahawk missile or one of our missiles from our mobile missile batteries or an aircraft is getting fed targeting data from eyes in the sky when that missile launches, and before they can hide that missile launcher again, there's a bomb or a missile or something from us that's already targeted that piece of equipment, and it gets eliminated. So it doesn't really matter so much how many missiles Iran has. What really matters is how many launchers they have. And as long as they keep launching missiles, we can keep destroying launchers. So the balance that Iran has to have here is like, look, if the battle's going to go on for weeks, as President Trump has indicated, then we got to keep these launchers around. We can't launch as many. Well, if they're launching fewer missiles, then that plays into our hands where we don't have as many air defense missiles to shoot them down, right? We don't have as many as they do have missiles coming our way, and our little missiles to shoot them down are more expensive than their missiles. So it's kind of a who runs out first situation. But if our technology with eyes in the sky of various designs can find these launches across a very wide, if you're talking satellite imagery, you can see hotspots develop across a wide range of land. So across maybe an entire country, you're able to see these hotspots crop up. And I would imagine that they're probably using artificial intelligence by now to help identify those things. All of this, is just speculation. I have no knowledge of this. And if they do have this capability, it would all be classified for sure. But the point is, somehow, some way, the United States is going to identify those launchers before or after they launch, and then we'll take them out. So how many do they have? Can they sustain them and repair them and create new ones faster than we can destroy them? That's kind of the battle that's going on with regard to missiles. So as we're seeing now, we've seen a decline in the numbers of missiles that are being launched, and that's a good thing. So what they say here, in other words, is the quantity of missiles launched in 4 days of this current war is comparable to the amount fired in the 12 days of the last conflict. So it's a significant amount of missiles that have gone out. Nonetheless, the rate of Iran's ballistic missile launches is lower than one might have expected for a battle that the regime likely views as existential, meaning it's their survival. And I would guess that they would have never guessed. They would never have assumed that they were going to lose all of their leaders because they went to the boss called a meeting of all the high-ranking people to decide what they're going to do, and then we killed them all. Like, if they thought that was possible, they wouldn't have all showed up in the same room. Okay, so our Admiral Cooper, he's head of CENTCOM. He said Iran's ability to hit us and our partners is declining. Iran's theater ballistic missile launches were down 86% since the first day of the conflict, dropping substantially in the preceding 24 hours. Okay, I think they're down like 26% in the last 24 hours. Okay, so this is an interesting site here. Let me, I'm going to throw this. I'm going to copy this URL and drop it in the chat window here, so you've got a hold of that one. You can look that one up. All right. Let's jump over to, this is a good one. This one's a little bit more detailed here. This reads, and reading this, and you'll understand why, but reading this one reminds me of reading military intelligence reports while I was in the military. And for obvious reasons, I'll explain that here in a minute. But let me reorder my pages here. I just wanted to check real quick. Rick, that's an interesting statement. I have heard reports that the Kurds have already instigated across the border operations of some kind. So yeah, I would expect that the Kurds, who have always seen themselves as wanting to be autonomous, they make use of this opportunity where Iran's got their eyes on bigger things. Rick, what else do you say here? You said we've all heard we sent the B-2s. That was pretty safe to fly those because they're slow, and yeah, obviously they're not sending those over if there's any chance they're going to get shot down. So I don't think that they're doing carpet bombing though. Carpet bombing is not one of the techniques that we use anymore. I would say that the bombs they load on those are going to be smart bombs. They've got some guidance to them, and you've got a whole bunch of them on the aircraft. So the loiter time, or the amount of time that the plane can stay in the air over Iran, especially if you've got refuelers, means that you've got measured in hours of loiter time, where as soon as you identify a launch of a rocket, you've got a bomb being dropped to take that rocket launcher out, right? So anyway, I'm speculating. I don't have any ideas other than my experience, or I don't have any information other than my experience. Yeah, Tawny, we do need to keep awareness. I think Alaska's probably fairly safe. If there were foreign terrorists, they would kind of stand out in this very, very Caucasian state. That's not to say that there isn't a possibility, but at least in my neck of the woods, if there was a Iranian running around, he'd probably stand out. Don't give away my secrets. I don't have any secrets. All I have is I just have experience, and I'm not sharing anything that's classified. I have no knowledge of classified information that I'm sharing right now. Okay, this is an interesting read. If you want to get into some real detailed analysis, this is where you come. A friend of mine turned me on to this site just recently. Let's look at who these people are. Let's see here. Who are we? Meet the team. Okay, so you can scroll through here and do your research on the people that are researching and writing here. I want to highlight a couple of them. Let's get down here. You'll recognize them right off the bat. All right. So General Keane, he was big, important. I don't remember what positions he had, but he's been an important asset to the United States. And then you recognize this face right here, right? General Petraeus, who was in charge of the CIA and in charge of Iraq and Afghanistan. He's been around. So anyway, so this group has got some heavy hitters and a lot of people assigned to them to do a lot of research. I don't know what their politics are. I'm less concerned about that right now with with regard to the information that they're providing here. So go away. I don't want that. Why are you doing this? Oh, they want me to donate or something. Okay, so what I want to show you here, maybe this banner will go away. There we go. What I want to show you here is they do updates twice a day, and they'll have a section here that's key takeaways for that update. And then you can get into some more specifics in each one of those updates or those sections that they put together. So there's a lot of information, a lot of detail that goes in here. If you're really interested in understanding what's going on over there and you're not shy about doing some research and trying to figure out because some of this is written in kind of military speak. So if you're a veteran and have read military jargon, then this will probably, you'll fit right in. But anyway, I just wanted to point this out. So these folks here, this was updated. I think this is the morning update. Yeah, morning update this morning. So they'll probably have another update this evening. So let's see if there's anything here that stands out. Continue to attack internal security institutions. This is another thing that we've just started hearing about is not only are your rocket launchers and your ability to wage war being attacked, but your internal security operations, read this as government police, is IRGC police or population focused security. Those entities, those buildings, those capabilities are being attacked as well. This bodes well for, and I know they've said, hey, this isn't a regime change operation, but you know what? You just killed the regime. It's going to change. So if you get rid of the internal security apparatus, then the population is, it is easier for them to stand on their own. So we continue to target those, and whether we are or whether Israel is, they're being targeted. Here they're defining this as a combined force, not just the U.S. So there it is. Police stations, Iran, cyber police stations. U.S.-Israeli combined force continued to degrade Iran's ballistic missile and drone infrastructure in Iran. This is interesting because Iran has been sending drone technology to Russia. The big drones that Russia's been using were actually designed and created in Russia or in Iran. They were first on the scene with these drones, so they exported them to Russia. So this is an interesting tie to what's happening in Ukraine, is that Iran's no longer in a position where they're going to be sending parts and stuff, support to Russia. So what is the impact in Ukraine? It'll be an interesting thing to see here. Okay, where was I? Okay, U.S. CENTCOM Commander Brad Cooper stated yesterday that the combined forces severely degraded Iran's air defenses and destroyed hundreds of missiles and drones and launchers. Right, so we know that. Combined force continued to target defense industry sites. Combined force struck at least 2 buildings, missile production complex. Combined force continues to attack naval capabilities. Okay, I see that in the news. Yeah, so more than 20 ships. Now it's being reported that they basically don't have a navy anymore. U.S. CENTCOM reported on March 4th that the number of ballistic missiles Iran has fired has decreased 86% since the start of the campaign and 23% in the last 24 hours. Combined Force has designed its campaign to destroy the ballistic missile capabilities before the force depletes its interceptor stockpiles. Okay? That's our stockpiles. Hezbollah has conducted several attacks targeting IDF positions and forces in northern Israel and southern Lebanon. Hezbollah launched two rocket attacks targeting Israeli forces in northern Israel, as well as a rocket attack targeting the Haifa naval base on March 3rd. Okay, so what does this mean? This means you've got a site now where you can confirm through a second source what you're seeing on social media or people are saying. Okay. So the value here is not necessarily that you come here to get your news, because it is, although you could just turn off social media and turn off the news and come here and just know that it's going to be delayed a little bit. But you got a lot of horsepower of people pulling data out. And when it comes here, when it's printed here, you can know that it's true. You can trust it. Whereas what you're seeing online, we had a saying in the military that first reports are generally wrong. So if news agencies are trying to report something and they're trying to beat the other news agency and get that juicy tidbit out soon and be the first to report something, well, odds are some of those details are going to be wrong, because that's just the nature of things. And it may not make sense. You may look at the reporting and you're like, well, that's cut and dry. That's exactly what happened. And then 24 hours later, there's different information, and it's not exactly true. That's just the nature of war and the nature of how things happen. You just don't understand immediately what has happened. And it takes time to determine what the facts are. You got the fog of war. You got people that make mistakes, report something that they shouldn't have, or it just wasn't complete reporting. I mean, these things happen. So again, I guess one of the things that I feel like I need to impart to people who are trying to figure out what's happening and want to be informed, don't feel like you have to know exactly what's happening over there right now. Those war fighters are going to keep fighting the war, and they're going to keep doing their best, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it. So it's okay if information comes in 24 hours late. It's okay. What are you going to do with it if you have that information? Turn the social media off. Don't listen to it, because there's so much misinformation being created out there. You got a site here where you can go to every evening if you want to, or maybe first thing in the morning, and look at what they produced the previous day. And it'll kind of give you an update on what's happening that's trustworthy, right? And how long is it going to take for you to read through something like this? All right. Not very long. And like I said before, if you want more information, all you got to do is jump down through this analysis, and your head will be spinning. There'll be more there than you actually would probably need to know, right? Okay. One other thing that I want to show you. Let me check. See here what you've got to say. Yeah, so in regards to strategic bombing versus carpet bombing, yeah, we don't do carpet bombing anymore. I would say that it was probably I was going to say probably. You know what? That's not true. Vietnam, they did carpet bombing. I was going to say that was the last time, but you know what? I know that there have been times in the Afghanistan campaign where we laid down a series of bombs coming out of the B-52 or B-2 or wherever they were coming from. That was a long string, which would technically kind of be a carpet bomb, but not in the sense of World War II, where you had many aircraft in formation flying over a city and dropping ordnance from a dozen or 24 aircraft. That's, in my mind, is carpet bombing. But what we've seen recently is a series of munitions being dropped from one plane, maybe two planes that are on a mountaintop or a mountain ridge. That's not the same thing as what happened in World War II. So anyway, yeah, I don't know if we've got our terminology wrong with carpet bombing in our mind's eye, but in my mind, it's many aircraft decimating a city all at once, or location all at once. All right. Kind of irrelevant. Let's see what else. Oh, you know what? I needed to give you that website before I forget. That website is right here. Here's the link. Okay, now you should have the link to that Understanding War website. Okay, let's see here. Chris, you say that the Iran regime changes, it probably won't be a democracy. Yeah, I don't know whether it'd be a democracy or not. I mean, it's not going to look like America. It probably won't look like any European democracy or anything like that. But you have to remember that before the Islamic Revolution in the 70s, it was a democracy of some sort. So I'm sorry, it wasn't a democracy. It was they had a king, or they had a heredity title. So there was some sort of king or emir or something. I don't remember what the title is, but it was more Western and more free than what it has been since the Islamic Revolution. So Chris, you're probably right. We don't, whatever they create is what they deserve and what they need, as long as it's not the Islamic Republic that's in charge right now. I would say something has got to be better than what they've had. I guess it could always get worse, but at least they won't have nuclear capabilities. They won't have a navy. They won't have a lot of rockets. We've degraded whoever comes in next. We've degraded their ability to be a pain in the butt in the neighborhood. And they still are. I'm not sure what you were saying there. And they still are. I'm looking, trying to figure it out. Yeah, good point, Rick. LNG goes to Japan, China, and other Asia countries. Yeah, this isn't like the world is going to be different after 2026. Okay. Trump has been a major disruptor, and his administration has been a major disruptor. You've got Venezuelan oil and Iranian oil that have been disrupted, and China's the major country that's going to be hurt the worst there. I don't know what happens with Iranian oil, whether contracts that are in force or whether on the other side of this, China continues to get Iranian oil. I don't know. It remains to be seen what kind of country Iran becomes after this issue. But China's got to be questioning things right now, like the supply of oil, being that Venezuela and Iran are now questionable for them. That's a serious issue. And you couple what's happening with the cartels down in South America. You couple just the notion for other. There's one person in my mind that is probably paying attention to what's happening in Iran more than anybody else on earth. You just took out the leader of Venezuela. You decapitated the leadership of an entire country in Iran. And if there's a couple carrier battle groups that show up off the Korean Peninsula, Kim Jong-un has got to be thinking, oh no, what's next? Am I next? All of his military generals are like, are we going down with this ship? Is there any expectation that the air defense that exists in North Korea is going to be any better than the air defense that exists in Iran or Venezuela? They're both provided by the Russians or the Chinese. I mean, Kim Jong-un's got to be seeing this, right? He's like, none. They haven't lost a single aircraft to enemy or our defense systems. Be like, hey, Putin, hey, Chinese government, communists, you sent me a bunch of equipment. Is this really going to work? There's one person on the earth that's watching what's happening. It's Kim Jong-un. I don't know. I don't know whether President Trump would head that direction or not. But in my mind's eye, the message, the writing on the wall is that the United States and any coalition partners that we have can pretty much operate at will with our military right now. That means something to some people. Okay, which direction was I headed here? One more thing I want to show you here. This is an interesting site, and I'm be upfront. Little scary, but it seems like it's accurate. It might be a quick way to get the down low. The lowdown. It's called the lowdown OSINT report. I know nothing about this other than I've just seen it. And here is the link. Let me get this to you first. That way you can pop it up on your own screen if you want to. Okay. Monarch government. Yeah, you're right, Christopher. It was monarchy, which was interesting because the mullah that got elevated there in Iran was the son of the previous Ayatollah, or the Ayatollah that got. Anyway, the whole point of the one of the points of the Islamic revolution was to get away from this monarchy and heredity title to leadership, and now, because so many of their leaders got killed, the last man standing is the son of the previous leader, so he gets elevated. You're like, okay, so you're going to do it too. All right. Anyway, let's get to this. This is an interesting site. Okay, I don't know who this person is. I've tried to do a little bit of research and have not figured out who this is. The name's there. About. So this is Josh Patton. Good job, Josh Patton. You've got a unique site. So Operation Epic Fury. And what this, so this is a independent open source intelligence gathering site covering competition, conflict, coercive activity involving Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, and the Western Hemisphere. I don't know. This could be CIA for all I know. I don't know what's going on here, but this is an interesting concept because it is using artificial intelligence to put together podcasts of information. And I would assume that some of this writing this here is also artificial intelligence, but I thought I would play this just for a minute to show kind of what they're doing.
Welcome to the Lowdown, an AI spoken open source intelligence and aggregated reporting deep dive.
Pause this. Click on this transcript and it's going to pop up the actual writing so you can read it too in real time. So there's these episodes that he's created of updates. So if you're interested in listening to something while you're working, this might be. Anyway, I listened through one of these podcasts and it was pretty accurate. I don't know whether I trust it yet or not, but it was pretty accurate. So if you click on this transcript, it'll pop up what's being said on the podcast in real time.
Information cutoff 0200 Zulu, March 5th, 2026.
Glad to be here for this update.
If you are joining us today, you are likely tracking the rapidly evolving security conditions across the Middle East and Eastern Europe.
Right.
We are covering days 5 and 6 of Operation Epic Fury.
All right. So it goes to the... I wanted to show you that where it says that this is AI driven. Maybe it was in the about. Huh. Let me click on the notes. Nope, that's not it. Interesting. Somewhere here, let me click on one of these. There was something that told me about the podcast, and it said, hey, acknowledge that, hey, this is AI driven. I'm sorry. I'm not as prepared as I should have been on that. Anyway, so this is AI driven. The other thing that is really interesting with this site that this gentleman, Joshua, has done is down below this analysis, he's got links to other articles. So here's an Al Jazeera article, which is interesting because, when I was in the military and when I was deployed, oftentimes Al Jazeera had the better reporting than U.S. web news organizations. I kid you not. So I don't necessarily throw Al Jazeera because it's not American. I don't throw the reporting out necessarily. I would confirm it, but in my experience, it has tended to be at least somewhat accurate. But anyway, so the point is there's updates or there's information provided by this site and links to other articles if you're interested in going and reading more about different topics concerning Iran and what's happening. So anyway, I thought I would throw this site out there just as kind of a, I don't know, it's fun. It's an interesting way to take news. I don't know how much I trust it because I don't know who Josh is. I don't know who Josh Patton is. With a little bit more research, maybe he's a brilliant guy with a lot of experience, and his analysis is something that I would trust. All I can say is that as I've read through it, it seems to be fairly reasonable, fairly accurate, and I haven't found any reasons to say, you've got your facts wrong. He's obviously doing a lot of work. So kudos to the Lowdown OSINT report. That's intelligence, open source. OSINT is an acronym, open source intelligence. That's the non-secret stuff. Okay, anyway, okay, so that's what we got. That's what we got for this evening. I wanted you to know that there are locations out there that you can go to get information that is not social media, because you're not going to get, you may get the details, but you have to wade through a whole bunch of crap in order to get them. At least on my feed, that's the way it is. Maybe your feed's different, but mine is horrible. Okay, let's see here. You sent a link somewhere, Rick. What link were you trying to get me? That's my link. That's my link. I'm not seeing a link. Can you email me your link? If you got something to send me, it's not showing up here. Your link isn't. Here is the email address. Email me if you got something that you're trying to get my way, because for some reason I'm not seeing it here. Yeah, Christopher, this is a really good point. Taiwan should be feeling relatively safe because China would not be able to sustain operations to go to war with Taiwan or go to war with the United States and not have a reliable source of energy, right? They can't sustain it. This is also interesting. Let me see if I can find this really quickly. Yes. Okay. Let me share this with you, because this is a really good point to put things in perspective. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Here we go. I'm going to share this. This is military spending. This is ChatGPT's assessment of military spending. Okay. So what I wanted to point out, just ballpark numbers here for comparison. Approximately $1 trillion is what the United States is spending on defense. China is spending 300 to 375 billion. Russia, 150 to 200 billion. North Korea is likely under 10 billion. That's what they can muster with their economy and their spending. Okay. So if you bring it down into defense spending as a share of their GDP, the United States is 3 to 3.5%. China is 1.7%. Russia, 6 to 8%. North Korea is spending 20 to 30% of their GDP on defense. Okay. So when somebody says that you can compare the ability to wage war between China and the United States, it really is not a really good comparison. Okay. The ability of the United States economy to outspend any of the competitors here in a really nasty war, it doesn't even compare. I know there's people that are saying that we're going to run out of munitions in Iran, and that may be the case, that our current stockpiles are getting low, but we have a very large capacity to get those munitions, the stockpiles back up when we set our mind to it. Now, I don't know how much of the technology that goes into the counter missiles. Maybe China's got us, in a corner because they've got the technology that we need to build the missiles. I don't know. Maybe that's the case. If it is, that needs to be fixed, needs to be remedied. But the capacity of the United States to be able to wage war is, we have much greater capacity than any of these other countries. And I know, the nuclear weapon is the equalizer because it's like mutually assured destruction. You lob one of yours, we're going to lob 10 of ours, and neither of us are going to survive. But at the end of the day, if it's not nuclear, if you're not talking nuclear weapons, the United States has got significantly more capacity to wage war than any of the people that we would be going to war with. So there's that. Let's see. A lot going on, but don't get distracted from the midterm campaigns going on as well, too. Yep. I refuse to believe that we're fighting a war specifically to influence elections. I think it's possible. I think it's unlikely. I think that the timing of the intelligence and the timing of Israel going to act kind of forced us to deal with this problem. The other aspect of this, and I'm not sure whether I can find the article, but the negotiators that were the U.S. negotiators with Iran have said that the Iranian negotiators came right out and said that we've got X amount of 60% enriched uranium, and we can have 11 nuclear bombs here shortly, right? So they came right out and identified that they've got this material. I don't know. You can't afford to call them liars and say, no, we don't think you can actually do that, right? You got to take them at their word. And Iran has always said that they have peaceful means, like their nuclear program is always been peaceful. They have not been pursuing nuclear weapons. Okay, that's the official statement that they have been saying. This is all, you're all treating us poorly. Our nuclear ambitions are all peaceful, right? But in this negotiations, now we're being told that they came right out and said, hey, look, we're on our way. So at that point, the administration's got to say, look, if we're talking weeks, like I don't know whether you started enriching from 60 to 90% already, or whether you're telling me that that's going to happen. But at this point, you're telling me that you're doing exactly what I said you were doing, and you denied it, and now you are. So we have to deal with this, because think about Iran with all of these rockets that they have, and they've got a nuclear bomb. Only one of those rockets needs to get through, and it doesn't even really have to detonate in the city. It just has to detonate above the city, and it's over. Like you can't come back from that. So I think that's probably what forced the hand here, is the assessment in the intelligence community that Iran was, even though their nuclear capacity had been not just degraded, but what was Trump's word for it? I don't know. A Trumpism for it was destroyed. Even though we said that we destroyed their nuclear capabilities, here they're claiming that we didn't, that they'll have a bomb here within matters of weeks, if not months. The assessment was we can't allow that to happen. So we're going to find out. Maybe we find out that we find the enriched uranium. Maybe we find out they were liars. I don't know. But I think that's probably what's more at play here. I don't think that it's going to be the elections issue. Now, I do think that what you're seeing with with regard to ICE and deporting illegals has everything to do with election, and it has everything to do with apportionment at the next census. The census has to count people in the country, whether they're here legally or illegally. And depending on how many people, not citizens, you have in a given area is how many representatives that you garner or are justified in Congress. So out of the 435, if you've got more people in your urban areas, then you're going to have more representation from your urban areas. And that means other non-urban areas are going to lose out representation in Congress. This is the whole reason why we've had illegal immigration coming into the country over the years, is so that we've got larger representation from liberal urban centers. That's it. Yes, it's the elections. I get it, because you've got urban voters that are now tied to federal spending, and they want to see the Democrats kept in power because they're the ones that are promising the money, and so it's a vicious cycle there, right? Yes, it's about that too, but it's also about apportionment, and this is the bigger issue: is long term. If you can lock in the membership that supports the liberal urban areas, and then there's no way out, because that's where your population is, and that's where your apportionment is. So Republicans don't win elections after that. That's why it's so important to get illegals out of the country. Okay, that has nothing to do with Iran, but it is one of those things that's moving so quickly. So many things happening, right? Let's see. Tawny says, agree on Al Jazeera, but not the U.S. version. Yeah, I don't know. I've never compared. And when I was overseas, I don't know that I was seeing the U.S. version. I know that it was, sometimes you have to click the button to turn it from Arabic to English. So probably wasn't the English version. I'll take your word for it. One thing I'm glad about, says Christopher, is Iran will not have any nukes that can hit the mainland of the U.S. Yeah. They don't, to the best of my knowledge, they didn't have ICBM, intercontinental ballistic missiles. They didn't have that technology yet. But if they've got medium rockets, it's only a matter of time, medium range rockets, it's only a matter of time before they either are given the technology from Russia or China, or they develop themselves. Yeah. I'm very thankful that that's not the case. And also, considering that ICBMs could get launched from other places in the globe, it should be speaking volumes to Americans as to why Trump would be going after land on the mass of Greenland, that part of the globe, because any anti-missile technology to address missiles that are coming over the North Pole towards the eastern part of the United States or Midwest, that's where it would be coming from. So you want to be anyway, Greenland's the strategic location for preventing what you are seeing right now in a larger scale. And I really do believe that this is the future of warfare. It's far easier here's another thing, far easier for countries to fight this way. It costs more, I think, but not in blood and treasure, or not in blood, people, but it's easier to just lob missiles at people, at countries. Here's the other thing. It's always been, I won't say always, it has been kind of an understanding that you don't go after the leaders of a country. You don't assassinate the leaders of the country in order to achieve political means. That is something that has been part of international norms for a long time. I'm saying that and I'm thinking in my mind, well, there was Gaddafi. We went after Gaddafi. It was Saddam. We went after Saddam. Like, I think what we're seeing here is that there has been kind of an awakening or an understanding that we don't have to commit a large military force to go in and change the direction of a country. All we have to do is use our technology to eliminate the leadership and then influence who steps up next, right? That's not what we did in Iraq. We could have done that in Iraq, but we sent boots in to nation build, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking myself here. I just seem to remember in military training that it had always been kind of the unwritten rule that you don't assassinate or you don't go after the heads of state, because I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have said anything, but that's what I seem to remember for some reason. And now we've got examples where this is the new norm. We're going in and eliminating the leaders. And I don't know, I'm not opposed to it, because you know what the alternative would be is sending in a bunch of 18-year-olds to go take the bullets to achieve a similar result, right? And I don't want that to happen. Like, far easier to use our technology and spend our money and lob some missiles and bombs and do the nation's will that way. But the byproduct of that, I think it then becomes easier for us as humans to have war with each other, because you take the personal risk out of it. Like, I don't have to go fight anymore physically, put my body on the line. I just, fewer people have to put themselves at risk, because now we've got this technology and we can fight from further away. Kind of like the whole concept that we had, Civil War era changed the way we fight, the way we fought. Before that, you had companies and battalions of men lining up in formation and taking volley fire to attrit the other side. And in the Civil War, we're like, that's how we started. And then we're like, no way. The South's like, we're going to hide behind trees. We're not going to stand out in the open. We're going to get slaughtered. We're going to hide behind trees. And that went away, because that was crazy. But that's how we did it. Gentlemanly warfare. In my mind, I'm thinking that we're seeing an evolution here of away from the Iraq occupation, large numbers of troops warfare, to strategic, targeted, remote destruction. And I think that means the likelihood of that type of activity happening is greater in the future, because we have less personal connection to it. Yeah, Christopher, that's a really good point. What happens when AI and robots become part of this mix? Then you can sit back and monitor or control from your operations center somewhere, right? I mean, I don't think we lob anymore. Yeah, I mean, if I said lob, I did say lob, but if I was saying it, I was in a tongue-in-cheek. Everything's precision. If we launch a rocket or we drop a bomb, it's precision. It's not lobbing in the sense that we don't know where it's gonna fall. Yeah, the misinformation that's coming out of Iran, they've got to know that the rest of the world doesn't really believe what they're saying, but a lot of it's messaging to their own people. If the internet's not working and there's not news getting in from outside the country, then it is plausible. It's likely that the population en masse doesn't really know what's happening, other than they see buildings exploding and rumors of leaders are not there. We don't see them. We haven't seen them in weeks. Word on the street, I think their messaging is more for their internal population than it is outside. Because do you remember, and I saw this on social media once, do you remember Baghdad Bob from the early years in the Iraq war, the second Iraq war, 2005 timeframe, I think it was 2000, maybe 2004. It was really early. And you've got this Iraqi, I don't remember. I don't think he was a reporter. I think he was like a press person for the Iraq government. And he was giving press updates and totally fictional stories that he was giving out on how well the Iraqis were doing, right? Anyway, we made fun of that at that time, and I think that's kind of similar to what we see going on in Iran. It's like, What else are we going to say? We're getting our butts kicked? Like, they got to make something up. Yeah. Overseas, you were seeing the Middle East version of Al Jazeera, but when I got home after 9/11 deployment, I tried to find Al Jazeera at home, and it was an Americanized version. Okay. Honestly, I don't go to Al Jazeera very often, so it's not something that it kind of just dropped off my radar after I come home. But thank you. Yeah. Anyway, so I don't know. I think the world's going to be a better place. I hope that the world's a better place without a regime in Iran that is sponsoring terrorism and just being violent. I think it is possible for them to be a peace-loving country, but it's going to require their people to stand up and smack down those crazies in their country. And it's the religious fanatical in their country that is the problem. It's the Islamic radicals. So the non-radical Muslims or the non-Muslims in their country, they're going to have to, step up and subdue these other folks. That's a tall order. That's a tall order. So I don't know. I don't know whether we end up with a friendlier government. It'll just be different, and it will take time for them to build up their navy again and their missile capability and all that. They're going to have to spend a lot of resources to build it back up. So that's at least a good thing. If we don't get a friendly regime, at least we've degraded their ability to be a pain in the butt. At least, overtly. They still have the ability to work through covert means and proxy terrorist organizations. But anyway, this is a ugly world. It's a evil world. It's a dangerous world. And Americans, by and large, have been sheltered from it. Unless you've been overseas or known somebody that's been overseas and interacted in countries where freedom and peace and security is something that's not a norm. You just don't know it. Your head's down in the sand, and you don't understand how dangerous this world and how other people will use power and military might to mold the world into their version of what they think it needs to be. Anyway. Better the fight gets taken to them and it happens over there than it happens on our land. That's what I think. I'd love for us to not have to go to war. But there's some people that you're never going to be at peace with. Islamic terrorists, Islamic fundamentalists who just want to kill you and eliminate you. That's one group. You're never going to be at peace with them. You just have to be stronger. And that takes intestinal fortitude and doing some things that we just don't want to do. Yep. Don't forget, I thought you were telling me, don't forget, Ben, you will be on Michael Dukes in the morning as well. That's what I saw. I was like, hey, thanks for the reminder. I do need to go to bed and get up early. Thanks for the plug. I will be with Michael Dukes on his show this morning, or in the morning. I look forward to it. I don't know what we're talking about. I haven't talked to him yet. I guess I'm gonna have to check my email. Okay. That's it for tonight, folks. I hope this was helpful. If you got questions, email me. I'll throw the email address up there one more time. Where is it here? There we go. There's the producer at OversightLIVE.com if you want to get in touch with me. Thanks again for joining with me tonight. I've had fun showing you where you can go to get some credible information. You don't have to rely just on social media. All right. Y'all have a good night, and we'll see you tomorrow night.